everybody, Tony D and Little Joan here with a hot take. And this is one of the hottest takes of the century. I told you. China. China is behind a lot. I knew it. And I'm not a genius for knowing it. But there are a lot of people who just ignored China. Now, this video has surfaced. And who posted this? Must See Videos posted this. So definitely check it out. And this is a Chinese college professor giving a lecture and basically kind of just bragging about international relationships between the U.S. and China and just casually mentioning how they had people in the top from 1992 to 2016 helping China in every conceivable way. Yeah. So here's a little snippet of it. I'll read it to you. I'm going to not play the sound, obviously. So during the U.S.-China trade war, and I know that my friends on the U.S. side, in other words, the people helping the communist Chinese, told me that they tried to help basically China, but they couldn't do much against Trump, he's referring to. But now we're seeing that Biden was elected. The traditional elite, the political elite, the establishment, they're very close to Wall Street. So you see that, right? Trump has been saying that Biden's son has come out of sort of a global foundation. Who helped Biden's son build the foundations? Got it? There are a lot of details in all these. Then so much at a time. We use the appropriate way to express some goodwill. This is my personal understanding based on my limited professional background. So, now, you have to take it with a grain of salt. It's Chinese propaganda. Everything the Chinese government does is Chinese propaganda. So, is this the truth? Do they really have people in the higher echelons of government? Maybe they're just trying to spark a civil war to make sure Biden's side never comes together with Trump's side, regardless of who is president. But I don't think he's talking out of the two sides of his mouth. I think he's genuinely arrogant enough to believe that he can talk about this stuff and nobody's going to dig through the Chinese internet to find it. But the internet's forever. And thank God for that. So I do think it's true, or at the very least, it's a true belief held by, say, the academics in China. And why do I say that? Well, there's evidence to suggest that, first, they're communist Chinese. That's what they do. They infiltrate other countries, especially rivals. They're trying to beat us on the international stage. It's a point of pride for them just to be number one. And they want more control of things, more control, more power. They have actively, supported Black Lives Matter, even though as a country, as a government, they are incredibly racist against black people. But they constantly criticize the United States for their racial tensions. So they're a bunch of hypocrites trying to damage the United States as much as possible. Now this is a scandal that happened back in 96, and I remember it. I remember sort of just hearing the news story, and I was kind of like confused. This is the Gore lobby in 2000. Gore to lobby lawmakers to support China trade. You might say, well, that's kind of weird. But that was back in 2000. That was so long ago. Maybe he had a good reason for doing that. Yeah, it's called money. It's also called the fundraising scandal in 96. Because the Federal Election Commission imposed a record-setting $719,000 in fines against the participants in the 1996 Democratic Party fundraising scandals involving contributions from China, Korea, and other foreign sources. Now, this is the LA Times, so they're kind of spreading out the blame here. But it's China. It's China. And when they say Korea, they mean North Korea, but it's just China. China is the one behind all this. And this was a scandal back in 96 that Gore's campaign, or some of the people in the Democratic Party, accepted money, probably through well, I did believe it was like through a Buddhist temple of some kind or a Buddhist organization, um, that they would get contributions for the Gore campaign and the Clinton campaign. 96, I guess, was, yeah, that would have been Clinton Gore. 2000 would have been Gore. I don't even remember who ran as his VP. So, $719,000. Yeah, even by 1996 standards, that's chump change when you're talking about a political election that spends millions and millions and millions of dollars. So it's not a real fine. It's well, we got caught so bad we have to pay you something fine. The Democrats have been taking money from the Chinese for years. Now, that doesn't mean they're ideologically aligned with them per se. I mean, the Clintons and probably the Gores, probably the greediest political families ever to run for the presidency or whatever. Especially the Clintons. They're just, everything I've ever read about them just shows you how greedy, money grubbing they are. They, it's not that Bill Clinton needed to go to Jeffrey Epstein's island to bang chicks. He used Epstein for his private jet because the Clintons loved riding on private jets and they didn't have one. Although now they can afford one, but ironically, where are they going to go? So I got to thinking today. Let's see. Wait, let's get through some more of this. Yeah, this is another article. This is from National Review, talking about the scandal. And there was a major investigation at the time. And they were a hostile power. 20 years ago, the Chinese were still the Chinese Communist government. So, this was soft pedaled by the news. You heard about it, but they didn't make it out to be any really big deal. Yeah, they took some money, but they probably didn't know, and it was through intermediaries. So what are you going to do? This happens at a campaign, right? I wonder if those same people felt the same way about, say, Russiagate under Trump. No, right? I mean, there wasn't even any proof that Trump had gotten anything from the Russians, and they went all ballistic. It's political. The Democrats, they're aligned with the media, so the media fronts for them. They say, well, these things happen, but when a Republican does it, oh my God, it's scandalous, it's terrible. Here's another one from the American Prospect, Al Gore and the Temple of Doom, and it refers to the Buddhist temple he visited. Here is an old CNN article. Where's this from? This is from that era. June 1st, 1998. Did a Chinese plot persuade Clinton to let a U.S. company give China its rocket science? No. Politics and policy did. So even here, they're trying to spin it away from Clinton, but still they admit it happened. They admit it happened, and that, he just did it for politics and policy. He didn't do it because he's corrupt. And again, this is Bill Clinton. It all comes back to money. I mean, look, the Chinese, they got a ton of money. They have a ton of money because they exploit their populace, and they have billions of people, and it's pretty easy to exploit them. And they have money. They've created a lot of wealth with their factories over the years. They're in trouble now. They're always sort of in trouble because they inflate their currency and whatnot. But in the end, the government there can just confiscate a bunch of wealth and do what they want about it. If they need to bribe Bill Clinton to get some rocket science, that's what they're going to do. And you ain't going to stop them. They're the CCP, baby. So, so even CNN, when they were kind of doing news, would acknowledge it. This one, here's another one. This is Al Gore's awkward trip awkward China trip. This is from the New York Times in 1997. Now, it's an opinion piece, but it's criticizing Gore. I mean, it's criticizing Gore about going to China not too long after this fundraising scandal. And why are you going to do that? This was supposed to be a trip to showcase, according to the article, the op-ed, the vice president's diplomatic skills and prepare the way for an exchange of presidential visits. His 2-day stop in Beijing instead served to underscore China's possible role in fundraising abuses. Another article from the Wall Street Journal, Mr. Gore's Scandal. And this is from 2000, 4 years later. And this is prior to the 2000 election in March. And, this is there's a trial going on. The election's coming up. Gore's running, and these guys, I believe there still was some chatter. I don't remember. It's been so long that Gore may have taken money again, but you're never going to find it. I mean, at that point, they're going to really hide it. So, I mean, the Democrats, and the reason I put this out is because of what the professor said in his lecture. He said from 92 to 2016, 92 was when the Clintons got into office, which begs the question. I speculated. Again, it's all speculation. The Clintons, I said, a lot of people disappeared around them. And I suggested, maybe they aligned themselves with the intelligence community, and the intelligence community made a few people have some accidents. So they could pave the way for their, rise to power, because then they would be beholden to the intelligence community. What if that's not the case at all? What if that was the Chinese? What if the Chinese paved the way for the Clintons to come in? What if they made friends with Chinese operatives who took care of a few problem people for them? I mean, you send a couple of Chinese hitmen to the United States, nobody knows who they are. They go somewhere where no one's ever seen them before. They commit a murder, which no one's seen, and then disappears. It's very hard to find somebody who commits a murder who then moves back to their home 5,000 miles away. If you don't figure out how, the travel, that would be the only thing to link them, right? And then once they get away, how are you going to get them out of the Chinese government's hands in order to even question them? They would disappear. So, the Clintons had a lot of people mysteriously die around them, even back in his days as a governor. So maybe it was the Chinese helping him out. Maybe they helped him out so they could be president, so he could just keep moving on up. Or not. Here's the Chinese consulate in New York and San Francisco identified as main hub, spy hubs. This is from July of this year. And Houston, the Chinese consulate in Houston, there was accused of a spying hub. And in fact, Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia, now all over Twitter are pictures of him meeting with the Chinese consulate. Why? It's in Houston. He's the governor of Georgia. Why is he going to the Chinese consulate to meet with this guy? What's so pressing? And it seems buddy with him. He wrote him a personal note on a birthday card. It's like, why are you kissing China's butt here? Shouldn't you be running Georgia? I mean, why are you doing this? What does China have to do with Georgia? Unless the guy's getting a little consideration, either for some foreign investments he may have going on that you can't really figure out, or just because the Chinese are just greasing the wheels and they're just dumping gifts on him, hoping he'll be more friendly to China if his career continues to spiral up as opposed to spiral down. The other news story regarding the governor of Georgia was that the boyfriend of his daughter was in a terrible car accident and he was killed. And you look at the car accident, and man, it is a horrific car accident. I don't know the details of it, but it looks like the whole car exploded. I mean, the car was all burned, and it was in the middle of the street, just in pieces. Who knows? Maybe the Chinese government was sending Kemp a message. Keep your mouth shut. You owe us. Help us torpedo Trump in this election. Maybe. I mean, once you're compromised, you're compromised, and your only choice to get out from under it is to turn yourself in or keep going because you think you're so damn smart. But the big news story is alleged Chinese spy got so close to the Democrat Eric Swalwell that alarmed FBI had to intervene. Now, I would have thought it would have been the CIA which would have intervened, but they're not supposed to work in the United States. But the FBI intervened, and let's see if I got a picture of it. Yeah, here it was. This story was broken by Axios. This is the Chinese spy, this hot chick here. What's her name? I think her name's Christine Fang, something like that. She raised money for Democrats through a campaign fundraising, extensive networking, personal charisma, and romantic or sexual relationships with at least two Midwestern mayors. Fang was able to gain proximity to political power, according to the current and former U.S. intelligence and one former elected official. She's pretty cute. So Christine Fang targeted up-and-coming local politicians in the Bay Area and across the country who had potential to make it big on the national stage. And I'll remind you that Swalwell, who farted in the middle of an interview, ran for president. Poorly, but he did. So, and he is angling for a position in the Biden administration in U.S. counterintelligence. Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I'm reading that wrong. But he is angling for a position in the Biden administration. I think that's done. Fang took part in fundraising activities for Swalwell's 2014 re-election campaign, according to a Bay Area operative. Swalwell's office was directly aware of these activities on its behalf, the political operative said. That same political operative who witnessed Fang's fundraising on Swalwell's behalf found no evidence of illegal contribution. Of course they did. Of course. Yeah, so, Swalwell's deny. Oh, I didn't know. But, she was an agent. That much is sure. Now she's back in China, slipped through their fingers again. Probably warned by somebody. But it's very detailed here. Yeah, between 2011 and 2015. So, even Tulsi Gabbard. Yeah, it's a shame. She even helped her. Fundraiser with Tulsi Gabbard. Yeah, that's a shame. They're all Democrats. Ro Kahana, Swalwell, Judy Chu, Mike Honda. Gabbard says, I have no recollection of ever meeting or talking with her, nor any recollection of her playing a major role at the fundraiser. Who knows? Who knows if that's true or not? There's no pictures of her with Tulsi, but seems to be a lot of other pictures. So, Fang was put under FBI surveillance. How it ended. Fang left the U.S. suddenly. Yeah, her cover was blown. She got wind of it. Disappeared. So, Fang has not returned to the U.S. Of course, she's not going to return to the U.S. Why would she? And the thing is about Chinese influence, a lot of these people don't even know they're accepting money or influence from the Chinese government until it's too late. I have one other article. I don't know what happened to it, but Dianne Feinstein. She had a chauffeur who was Chinese. he turned out to have been an agent spying on her for 20 years. For 20 years, he had been her driver, and he had been a spy, just, sitting in the car, catching a little bit of conversation as she's going in and out on her cell phone, gaining her trust, I'm sure, planting bugs whenever he could. The Chinese aren't messing around. Now, were they involved in the election? I'm sure they were. I'm sure they threw some money around through intermediaries. Spies work best when they do two things. First, they work with cutouts. They recruit somebody who's very loyal and paid fairly well, so they continue to be loyal for whatever reason. There's all kinds of ways you do it. I mean, what the mafia would do is set up a situation where you were in trouble and then save you, and then you'd be their friend, right? And then, they'd ply you with money and cash in the good times, and when things got tight, they'd just intimidate you. And, once you're in, you're stuck. It's a very similar process with spies. You get people trapped. You either get them on blackmail, like Epstein did. You get them on camera. You have an affair with them. You get something over them, to hold over them, just in case they get out of line. But mostly you recruit somebody who's already aligned kind of with your worldview. And then once you got them, you use them as sort of a puppet to get at other people. So, George Soros isn't going to hand money to members of Antifa on the street. He's going to do it through corporations and guys he knows that are kind of loyal, and he's going to find a guy who can find loyal guys, and and he's just going to talk to the intermediary, because then you could always cut it off there. You can always say, well, I didn't know any of this was happening. And if your intermediary gets a little mouthy, you either tell him, well, I'm going to take care of you, don't worry, just do your time, and you'll be comfortably rewarded, or he has an accident, and then, oh, no more case against the big guy. That's what happens in the world of the mafia. In the world of spies too. You use a cutout, so if you have to, you just kill him. That's it. You kill him. You get a guy who's loyal to recruit other people for you and do other things. You don't tell him why. Tell him a big elaborate lie, which you use all your money and resources to sustain, right? So who knows what she told people. She probably had a very practiced American accent and said that she loved America and she loved coming over and she really loved helping the Democrats and wanted to become a citizen and blah, 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 and you get a few loyal people. You pay them really well. You shower them with gifts and praise or whatever you need to do. In her case, she could also, have affairs with these guys and say, oh, you're so handsome. Oh, it's so great to have sex with you. Oh, I love you. And just, it's very appealing. A hot, young Chinese girl suddenly interested in you. You're like, well, maybe I still got it. No, you don't have it. You don't have it. She's the honeypot. The honeypot, as Archer once said on his show. I love the honeypot. Yeah, everybody loves the honeypot until you realize you've been used. And, she's going to, sure, she'll have tons of sex with you. And then when you're asleep in the motel or whatever, she plugs a little thing into your phone and downloads all your data. Now she's listening to every phone call. She has all your contacts. She's got all your emails. She's got everything. And then when she hangs that over your head and says, well, if you don't listen to me, I might have to have a talk with your wife. I just need you to do me this one favor. And you still don't know you're working for the Chinese government. You think you're just working for her. Some crazy woman who's blackmailing you or whatever. And if that doesn't work, you hold even more stuff over her head. And you get the person to do what you want. And if things go wrong, well, they meet with a little accident. If you could have the cutout, do the killing, so much the better. You just want to keep your hands clean because you got a cover to maintain. And I'm not sure what her cover was. I guess Chinese fundraiser who just generously raises funds for politicians. Who knows? But seems to have worked. Who knows how many other people it worked on? Who knows how many other Chinese agents are out there? Maybe, and some of them may not even be Chinese. They may merely work for the Chinese government. You know, they have a exchange program with some of the African countries. They might be African. They might be, you know, people who would look totally American. And well, no trace of an accent, or very little. And you would say, oh, I don't know where you're from, but you seem like a nice person. You raise a lot of money for us. Meanwhile, it's really coming from the Chinese government. Maybe they're not even raising the money. The Chinese government will just hand them a few $1,000s just to impress the person you're trying to impress, right? So if you say to some politician, oh, I can raise $10,000 in 2 days, hire me. Oh, that's crazy. That's a lot of money to raise. Well, I'll give you a shot. And then you go out and call your Chinese guys and say, give me $10,000 so I can buy this guy. Boom. It arrives. And you're looking at it like, oh my God, this person is a whiz at raising money. Sure, I'm going to hire you. Yeah, that's what they do. That's what they spend their money and resources on, maintaining the illusion. Because it's all about maintaining that in order to extract information and resources from you. It's all about unwinding the United States to the point where we don't know if we're coming and going. So some of this may be Chinese propaganda. Maybe all of it is. But what they found in Hunter Biden's laptop, no, that's for real. Hunter did go to China, and Hunter did cut a deal with Chinese nationals. The Bidens are compromised any way you slice it. So I don't think they can allow Biden to become president, really. I mean, look, there are a lot of people who would make money with Biden becoming president and cutting their deals again. But if they just spend 10 minutes looking down the road a ways, they have to realize that they would send the United States into a downward spiral from which it will never recover. And if you think the billionaires will be welcomed with open arms in China, you're living in a fantasy realm. The Chinese Communist Party run the show. So you only get to be a millionaire or a billionaire if they allow it. If they allow it. Your personal power, it only matters so much. You're not going to be able to challenge people like you can here. You can challenge people all day long in the United States. They're not going to line you up against a wall and shoot you or disappear you somewhere. In China, people disappear. They disappear forever. Never seen again. Don't know where they are. Where's the woman who first got infected with the coronavirus? They don't know where that scientist is. Can't find her. What happened to the doctor who made that heart-wrenching video where he was dying in the hospital with COVID? No one could find him anymore. Did they kill him or was it all fake? You don't know. It could be both. In fact, somebody pointed out on Twitter, probably most of the footage coming out of China regarding the virus was fake. It was to exaggerate the lethality of it. I bought into it too. I was reading about it early on saying, holy crap, it's got a 3% death rate. We're in big trouble here if this is true. And of course we found out it wasn't that bad, but by that time we were already freaking the hell out. So, the Chinese are a danger. Did they mess in with the election? I don't see how they could not have messed with the elections. And speaking of which, I gotta talk to my friend about Trump and the latest developments. See you in the next video.